Gherdëina. I hope I pronounced that well. Being the Biennale was initiated in 2008 during Manifesta 7, and we'd love to hear more about that later on. And takes place, it's one of the few biennials that takes place within a rural setting and not as usual in an urban environment, let's say. And not only in a rural setting, but in an amazingly beautiful in an amazingly beautiful setting of the Dolomites in northern Italy, which is a World Heritage Site, which is a UNESCO site. So I'm sure that we will see plenty of images to charm many of you that can to go and visit this year's biennial or the next ones, of course, but also just to go to visit the area for a very, very pleasant few days. With us today to present the Biennale are Doris Ghetta, who is the founder and director of Biennale Gherdëina. As I said, a project that was born in 2008 as a side event of Manifesta 7, which has now become in its 9th edition an important festival of contemporary arts in the public space in Val Gardena in Italy, in close connection with the Ladin language minority and its culture. In 2014, Doris also founded the Galleria Doris Ghetta, a contemporary art gallery based in Octisei, in the heart of the Dolomites World Heritage Site. And in 2021, she opened another gallery in Milan, thus confirming her desire to promote the flourishing of contemporary art, the development of critical thinking, and education in art and culture through the interchange between local artists and the most contemporary international art research. We're very happy to have you here, Doris, and we look forward to hearing a bit of context of what the Biennale did and is doing in its setting. Also with us today is Lorenzo Giusti, who is an art historian, a curator, a mountain enthusiast, and lover of walking in natural spaces. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that. He is currently the director of GAMEC, which is the Galleria of Modern and Contemporary Art in Bergamo, also in northern Italy, but different region of northern Italy. Where along with numerous solo exhibitions, he has conceived and co-curated the long-term multidisciplinary program, The Trilogy of Matter, between 2018 and 2023. And apt for this presentation, Thinking Like a Mountain, which is an ongoing project, and founded during the pandemic in 2020, the digital platform Radio GAMEC. As an independent curator, he staged exhibitions, edited publications, or collaborated in different roles with several public and private institutions and organizations, including Kunsthaus Baselland, MUMOC in Vienna, Art Dubai, the Venice Biennial, Artissima in Turin, Vienna Curated by Festival, sorry, Palazzo Grassi in Punta Dogana in Venice, and many other institutions, which I will not name all. We are, of course, very happy to have you here, and we look forward to hearing a bit more from you about this year's biennial in particular, which was titled The Parliament of the Marmots, and we're curious to hear more about all of that. I think I'm mostly done with my part of the presentation for now. I'm extremely happy to give you the floor, and we'll look forward to the Q&A session, which will take place afterwards. Thank you for being here today.
13 have contributed with recent works fundamental in the composition of our mosaic, while a further 4 presences, you can maybe switch to the last slide. These are the commissions. As I was saying, they are 19, and these are the participation and the collaboration with a group of institutions like the GAMEC, the Gallery of Modern Contemporary in Bergamo for Limma Said, with Museo in Bolzano for Tobias Tabella, with the Association Bolzano Danza for Elle Siljeholm, and with the Association Art und Kunst in Bolzano for Eva Giolo, who gave us the opportunity also to provide the Biennale with a satellite space, which has been conceived as a sort of gateway of access to the valley in the city of Bolzano, introducing the visitors to the living myths, to the finest kingdom legends, and to the Parliament of Marmots. And among the collaboration, we must also mention the Muse, which is the science museum in Trento, together with which we have developed a film program, including works by Noor Abu Rafeh, Jumana Manna, Meve Brennan, Yalda Afsa, and Caterina Erika Shanta. So now, when I received from the associations and I say that the proposal to curate this year's edition of Biennale Gherdëina, I thought that the most interesting thing to do was to work not so much on the ecosystem of the valley as in the tradition of this Biennale, but rather on the visual and I would say also emotional short circuit generated by the contrast between the imposing natural landscape of the Dolomites that I know you know, Christian, which best embodies the collective imagination of wild nature, so of wilderness, let's say, and the presence of the human species within it. So there are few places in the world that can boast such an extraordinary, overwhelming mountain nature, and at the same time such a level of organization, control, and I would say also capitalization of as Val Gardena today. So this perception led us to the first idea of this project, which was to question the authors on the subjects of the wild. So what is wilderness? Where can we find it? Is it still possible to experience the wild? Where can we still recognize some form of, let's say, natural freedom on a planet where there are no longer any pristine places? So what spaces do the ruins of capitalism, the island of abandonment, if you want to use the words of the Scottish writer Cole Flynn, reserved for wilderness, and what possibility of life and what form of survival? So all these questions have oriented the project of Biennale Gherdëina 9, and in different way, trajectories and also temporalities, the work of the artist called upon to participate. Now, studying the myths of the Dolomites, I then came across the legend of the finest kingdom, which tells of the conflicts, wars, and collapse of these mountain people living on the edge of the world, let's say, due to the breaking of an ancient pact. It was a sort of primal alliance with the Marmots, and this gave rise to the second idea for this project. So Marmots are the symbol of the mountain wildlife, let's say, and brought into our time the archetype of the alliance with Marmot speaks to us of what? Of the breaking of the interspecies pact perpetrated by our society. So Latin myths have therefore given us the cue and the opportunity to bring the interspecies trajectory to the center of our reflection and to try to tell in a very, I would say, spontaneous form, a form that deconceptualizes the idea of nature in favor of a more, I would say now that the Biennale is open, an existential literary vision, new stories in which the human being is not the absolute protagonist. So according to the anthropologist Anna Singer, which was one of our main references, the ability to make words is not the prerogative of humans, which is why in order to understand the crisis of our society and the collapse of ecosystem, it is necessary to turn to ways of making words or modes of existence beyond the human. This does not mean adopting a post-human perspective where the human disappears, but opening more up to the telling of what she calls more than human stories, in which humans lose their centrality in the knowledge that no organism, so no entities, can become their self without the assistance of other species. And in this perspective, non-human animals are active protagonists and in a way members of the Parliament of Marmots Assembly in Gherdëina, just like the representatives of our species. The third idea characterizing this edition of the Biennale Gherdëina is the bridge between the Alps and the Mediterranean, and the reasons for this choice were again suggested to us by reading the leading legends. So in reconstructing these ancient stories of the Dolomites or tradition, Carl Felix Wolff drew on Nordic mythology, of which the culture of his time was permeated, and in doing so, however, he lost sight of the link between these tales and the ancient Mediterranean narratives, which some recent studies have attempted to trace. So by overlaying the background of these ancient Dolomite legends with new tales of mountains, forests, migration, animality, and interspecies alliance, the project embraces a field of investigation that, along with the European continent, extends as far as the Mediterranean territories of North Africa and the Middle East, from which the narrative structures underlying the leading myths themselves seems to derive to a larger extent, let's say. So in the works of the artists gathered in this assembly, the forms of other mountains beyond the sea and their inhabitants, human and non-humans, reverberate. So from the Moroccan, Algerian, and Tunisian Atlas to the Egyptian Sinai, to the mountains of Palestine and Lebanon, and up on to Turkey and Greece. So now within the Parliament of Marmot, a very special role is played by the tribute to Lin Mai Said. Here we can see some pictures of the exhibition in Ortisei, which has been realized, as I was saying, in collaboration with the GAMEC in Bergamo as part of the biennial institution program, Thinking Like a Mountain. The retrospective exhibition that we realized thanks to the collaboration of Jackie Strands and Lin Mai Said's estate is divided between Ortisei and Bergamo. Lin Mai Said was a German artist of Iraqi origin on a father's side and mother of Jewish origin. She has dedicated her entire research to the animal world and the relations between human and non-human animals, elaborating a new iconography of interspecies solidarity and empathy. Her practice ranges from sculpture to reliefs, from drawing to also carved paper. We have one big important work in Ortisei, and focuses on the production of works populated by animals of different geographical origins and human figures, mainly taken from this was a very strong link with the project of the Biennale, taken from stories, fables, and myths, especially ancient Mediterranean myths, such as the Mesopotamic epic of Gilgamesh, creating in this way a cross-culture and interspecies narratives that project us into, let's say, an alternative common future. So for this occasion, we also published a very small volume collecting 6 fairy tales written by Lin in the early 2000s when she was still studying at the Art Academy in Düsseldorf, translated from German into 4 languages, Italian, English, Arabic, and Latin. Now you have to understand, as Doris was saying, that in an area in which 3 languages are studied and spoken fluently, in which the question of language is therefore highly debated, entering directly into relation with the historical and political issues, this edition of the Biennale also questioned the role of languages in relational and identity discourses and the possible existence of a common I would say, non-language capable of creating new forms of relationships between animals, between all animals, human and non-human. So in this direction, one of Limma Said's most beautiful tale, The Silence of the Animal, is dedicated directly to the theme of language, and I would like to read it because I think it's particularly representative of the spirit of the Parliament of Marmot. So different reasons could be imagined why an animal does not answer when it is asked a question. One is the rather esoteric sounding theory, which claims the animal remains silent because it is meditating. The meditation would be so deep that it cannot even be lifted when the animal dies a violent death. Its superconscious is silent, while its unconscious makes sound, which are misunderstood as unarticulated and fill the space surrounding the animal and its adversary. The other possibility would be that the animal can actually speak through only very slowly. Ages can pass before an animal enunciated the sentence, "Please don't kill me," in an almost infinite expansion of syllables, like someone writing his name on the surface of the moon. Depending on the particular species, this can take hundreds of thousands of years. So let's say, as a fable, The Silence of Animals is a kind of dissertation. So the text gives an account of possible theories regarding the supposed inability of animals to respond when questioned and to protest when faced with violent acts. So whether it is because of the continuous and profound state of meditation or because of the extreme slowness of speech, which is imperceptible to human here, both hypotheses imply that at the origin of everything, there is not a problem of lack of consciousness in the animals, but rather a question of differency. So the reference to the meditative state raises the issues of animal psychology. So what is the lens through which to look to try to understand the inner life of animals and their language, that of philosophy, that of science, the questions. So these questions permeates all of Limma Said's work. Now we know that scientific research has proven beyond reasonable doubt that animals are sentient beings with social relationships and sophisticated psychological structures. All animals in their own way know what pain is, what fear is, what loneliness and love are. So paradoxically, the scientific community itself has used its growing knowledge of the animal universe to manipulate their lives in a way that serves the development of the human industry, often inflicting unprecedented form of suffering. So this is included into Limma Said research, and it has inspired very much our vision, the one I have developed also with Marta Papini, associate curator, that I forgot to mention. But now, as you know, probably Limma Said sadly passed away prematurely last year, shortly after agreeing to participate in the Parliament of Marmot, for which she was envisioning replicating some of her most iconic polystyrene animal sculptures in wood, relying on local craftsmen. So this 9th edition, we decided with Doris, this 9th edition of the Biennale Gherdëina is therefore dedicated to the memory of Limma Said, to the memory of her extraordinary work and political commitment for the animal liberation and the global peace, which has inspired and guided our vision also and choices. So now I have prepared a very brief overview on the work of the artists participating in the Biennale. The works can be grouped into 3 main trajectories: the reinterpretation of the myth, the interspecies trajectory, and the mountain, I would say, geological trajectory. So myth, stories, and legends fills the production of many of the artists involved, And the ancient narratives projecting to the reality of our time define new trajectories of meaning, interweaving reflections on origins with thoughts on possible new forms of existence and cohabitation. We can start, for example, from the drawings by Marcus Vallazza, an artist from Ortizeis, who died, can you please go back to this image? Yes, thank you. Who died in 2019, created for an essay written by Anita Pickle and Ulrike Kindle on the heroines of the finance cycle. And this drawing has been reinterpreted by this Tyrolean designer Martino Gramper, installed inside the Osteria Traube in Ortisei, which is an old and beautiful tavern in the center of the village where the artist used to go. There is Eva Giolo's short film, A Memory is an Animal, It Barks with Many Mouths, which has been produced with Arge Kunst, where the symbolism of leading myths comes to life again through the games and the exploration of children in the Dolomite valleys, amidst cavities in the ground, enchanted paths and pools of water. The same pools that in Diana Policarpo's work, Anguane Fountain, refers to the legend of the Anguane, which are metamorphic female entities of Latin mythology, which are guardian of the mountains and woods and water, but myths are not only legends. For example, in the work of Eva Papa Margheriti, a chimera-like creature lives, is walking in the forest. So in this video installation, the mythological animal, who is in the sum of various living species united in a single body, undertakes a journey back to the forest amid moments of wandering and ecstasy. There is a very intriguing video by Marianne Fami, where the memory of the ancient Mediterranean myths also echoes. The title of this film is Atlas, and the reference goes to the North African mountain range, overlaps with the reference to the Greek myths of Atlas, the giant forced by Zeus to carry the world on his shoulder. And it's called upon to evoke the absurd race for dominion over the sea by the historical powers of the West and the weight of the colonial legacy. A special role in the exhibition is played by the three wood sculptures made by Femi Otten, the mountains and the vulva in particular, but also Hourglass, where the self-taught artist celebrates universal symbols of fertility in connection with the mountain dimension and the wildlife. And Yemi's Bekeli pictorial installation is instead dedicated to the Jebel Bou Kournin, which is a massive with two peaks overlooking the Gulf of Tunis, called Bar al-Karnaim by the Punics, which means God with two horns. It housed an ancient sanctuary dedicated to the deity where bulls were sacrificed. And into this group, we can also include Katia Kameli's work, which goes beyond the borders of Mediterranean, because it takes its cue from the World of the Birds, which is the ancient Persian poem written by Farid ud Din Attar, which narrates the exploits of flock of birds of different species led by the Upi in search of Simorg, which is a mythological creature of the Sufi tradition. We inhabitate the slopes of the Mount Kaf. Then, of course, also this work introduces us to the interspecies trajectory. This is clearly where which includes numerous work. Non-human animals, as I was saying, are the main protagonist of the meeting in Val Gardena, the paths traced by the passage of these animals through the Dolomites open up to new paths of investigation and discovery. There's this work by Alex Ayed, Untitled, which is, for example, a adobe coat made of wood, clay, and straw using traditional North African technique. The work has been reinstalled in Val Gardena, and the work has an ambiguous nature built by humans to be inhabited by birds, this structure actually conceals a desire sort of control. And the idea of control is present also in the work of Andrei Radze, for example, and we have collected a group of photographs which reflect on the human obsession with cataloging and the ambiguity of certain of our behaviors, such as trying to give a noble and lively appearance to non-human animals which are killed for this purpose. The birds are protagonists again in the work of Ruth Berraca, for example. The Skies of the Violin, which is a sound installation. Here we see the sculpture on ceramic realized by Ruth together with the sound installation, which reflects on the multiple essence of nature, harmonious and cruel at the same time, also alluding to the metaphor of the sky in religions and its role in conflict dynamics, which is also in a way a topic of Valentina Furian's work. So the idea of forcing the animal's behavioral limits. The work is titled Centauro, and it captures a training session of a trained horse dwelling on the nervous, restrained, and unnatural movement of the animal. Then, of course, the theme of the wild is at the center of a series of works that adopt the animal perspective to put forward a reflection on the complexity of natural systems, like, for example, here the work of the Biennale Gherdëina artist Arnold Olksnet, retracing the lines of thought traced by Aldo Leopold, which reflects on reflecting on the dilemma of the wolf, which has started to populate the woods and the mountains of many alpine areas, Dolomites included, and on the difficulty for humans to understand its role within natural ecosystems. This controversial sense is also present in the work of Julius von Bismarck, which is one of the most iconic pieces in this Biennale. And it refers to the presence of the bark beetle, which is a small beetle that, due to the global warming, is infesting the planted forest of the Dolomites, causing the disappearance of entire woodland areas. So in the artist's vision, the animal, which is portrayed as a general on horseback in this large sculpture created for the center of Ortisei, of course, it represents a problem for the forest, a sort of invader, but it can also appear as a messenger of change, a prophet who has to come to the valley to preach the need for a renewal. And so the action of this bark beetle, as well as the summer storms of the last year, may also provide the reason for the falling trees used by Nadia Kabilinke for her installation Mushroom, which simulates the emergence of a group of roots from the floor of a cellar in the center of Ortisei. So insects are protagonists as well as other animals. For example, a protagonist almost always in the drawings of Atelier dell'Errore, which is a collective of neurodivergent artists. But in this case, the plates chosen for this edition of the Biennale Gherdëina, however, depict mammals that resemble marmots, let's say, in their physiognomy. And Atelier dell'Orzo has also made the drawing that have been used for our graphic project for the catalog for the entire Biennale. So those of Atelier dell'Errore are never specific animals, but more hybrid forms that define idea of animality as a metamorphic dimension. So somewhat similar idea is recounted, for example, by Sarah Wadou in collaboration with the Gherdëina sculpture Ellen Demetz, which has been handed down for these animals, not necessarily recognizable, has been handed down for centuries by craftsmen in the mountains of North Africa, or by Moroccan women in front of their bread ovens. So the small animal sculptures they make, which are mindful of some prehistoric objects found in different parts of the atlas, do not have precise features. They are generic animals, approximate representation of non-human living beings used as toys or amulets. And this is also can be recognized in Nassim Azazar mural, which mixes geometric, decorative motifs and colors from Moroccan and Dolomite tradition, and unidentifiable animals appear here in the mural, figures that tell of transformative processes, again, and metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is also protagonist in the drawings of Ezra El-Feki, who has imagined some new species of butterflies born from the fusion of shapes and colors observed in the the Santa Caterina Mountains in Egypt and in the Alps of Switzerland. And another insect is protagonist in the scarab beetle. In this case, is protagonist of the video of Elmas Denix, for example, who's an artist who for several years now, not the picture, it refers to another work, but Elmas Denix is an artist from Turkey who for several years now has been questioning the possibility of adopting a more than human perspective in the analysis of natural relational dynamics, often focusing on the theme of wild, as in the series of images of animals eluding humans made with photo traps. And so on. There are many other works, like the video of Edmar Astenis, or like the video of Yanis Rafa, or again the sculpture of Laurent Ledemphe, who also moves, whose animal tombs realized with the rocaille decoration technique treat along the boundary of the species with subtle irony, playing on the cliches of anthropomorphization. And the interspecies trajectory also includes Chiara Bersani's performance, L'Animale. Chiara Bersani is an Italian performer, is a disabled artist, and the wild version of this L'Animale performance developed for Biennale Gherdëina is distinguished by the display of the artist's body, not on a pedestal as usual, but on the top of a rock, in the manner in which wolves position themselves on the mountain crags to hold or to summon the pack. So the affirmation of the artist's disabled body, the search for visual and perceptual contact with the community gathered around the rock, interrogate the idea of the wild, usually associated with the principles of physical and ability and strength, tracing new paths of meaning again. And then, if I have a little more time, I don't know how much I have spoken already, concerning the third trajectory, many of the works presented in the Biennale Gherdëina, they cast us into an extended geological and metamorphic time in which geographical boundaries are lost, and in which seas, desert, and mountains find their common origin. This is the third trajectory. And Linda Jasmine Meyer masks, for example, depicting various species of plankton, referred to the formation of the Dolomites, which are rock chains originated by the deposition of marine organisms, telling us about transformations again and natural cycles. Then Ingela Irman, the work of Ingela Irman, First Came the Ocean. It's an installation realized on the high plateau of Juach, near Selva di Val Gherdëina. And this work reinterprets the forms of a gigantic marine animal similar to those that inhabited the Dolomites 250 million years ago, and is made from, again, fallen trees trunks and branches. The performance of L. Silgerholm, for example, again, titled The Mountain Body, the Sea of Rocks, waves together complex climbing technique and typical swimming movement, wearing colorful animal costume that refer to the close relationship between mountains, the sea, and erosion, which is typical of the Dolomite landscape and of the Dolomite peaks. So of lands resurfaced from the waters or submerged due to the rising seas is also Tala Ragbassian paintings. They speak to us where, because here in her paintings, the presence of man is amplified, but never explicitly declared. And this is a bit like in Alessandro Biggio's studies for a portrait, where here we see the cones, but there are also another works, which is titled Studies for a Portrait, where faces molded in clay melt to return to the state of pure matter, in a way recalling the process of mountain erosion and the life-death life cycle of all things, I would say. There is also another work by a Sud-Tirolian artist, Tobias Tavella, which is part of the Biennale. This has been realized in collaboration with Museion in Bolzano, and it talks about, again, an impact of the human presence on the mountains. It's a nomadic drum, a drum made from a satellite dish abandoned in the forest, and which is supported by a structure built from the remnants of a ski slope pole. Again, from Sud-Tirol, from Bolzano, Karin Velpone realized a group of watercolors drawing in the 80s during a series of trips she made to Algeria, and in which the artist focused on certain rock formations that recall the shape of the Alpine mountains, so the Dolomites mountains of her childhood. And this is also as a dimension present in the work, in the video of Ismail Barri. In this case, it's the Tunisian desert. The video is called Digital, because there is the handprint of a wandering man. We see the handprint of a wandering man in the midst of a storm is erased by the wind. So this is a sort of a metaphor of an extended time in which the passage of human species on Earth is just one phenomenon among many, many others. And so this idea, this geological perspective is also part of the work of Nadim Choufi. It's included into the vision and the experience of Michael Opfner, which is a walking artist who has traversed some of the world's most remote areas on foot. And for this edition of Biennale Gherdëina, Michael Opfner has re-elaborated photographic materials and drawings made over the last 25 years. And he realized a beautiful installation in the ancient Hotel Ladynia in the center of Ortisei, connecting the Dolomites to the Tibetan plateau and to the Tunisian slope of the Atlas that he had walked many times. And mountains are also protagonists in the pictorial work of Daniele Genadri, which is guided by reflection on the various forms of perception of the landscape conditioned by physical and cultural structures, and in particular in the light-flooded works created for the Parliament of Marmots. Daniele Genadri depicts a sort of composite landscape, which is not clearly identifiable, in which the mountains manifest the transitory and changing states. This is also in relation to the work of Shuruk Garba. I don't think we have a video still, but Shurukarb is a Palestinian artist, and I would like to end with this reference. She is presenting a film called Absence, built on the shapes of a huge stone on the outskirts of the Ramallah hills. So in order, in this case, to narrate what exists beyond its being. So the stone, the rock. So what exists is a story, a legend, an identity, a people, and a life. So this is a very quick overview of the many works and artists included into the Parliament of Marmots.
Thank you, Lorenzo. I'll rejoin you. I think it was a very beautiful way of ending it with this reference also to Palestine and to Ramallah and so on, also as a reminder of where we are historically. I think it's always a duty that we have to remember where we are. But yeah, I found the presentation of both of you very a very good introduction, definitely for those of us that will have the chance of coming, but also a testimony to a biennial that certainly visually, of course, echoes with some of the ones that we've seen, in the sense of the works echo works that we see also in very different contexts. But I think because of that, it highlights the special surroundings in which it takes place. And that's great to see, and that was yeah, I can't wait to ask you some of the questions that I wrote down. Before I do so, I just want to remind everyone in the chat today that you're more than welcome to reach out, make yourself noticed. We'll react to it. While you do that, I'll start with a couple of questions. Some of them will be more institutional, let's call them, or more interested in the setting of the biennial overall, and some I think more specific to your project, Lorenzo. But of course, feel free, both of you, to answer as you feel fit. And I want to start with some questions that address the framing of the whole biennial. Because Doris, you mentioned the link to Manifesta 7 in 2008, in this very small gesture of inhabiting the pedestrian area, the pedestrian zone in Noctisei. But you also mentioned, I think it was you, Lorenzo, actually, but I'm guessing this is partially both of you interacting, the collaborations that you had this year with, I mean, both in terms of commissioning, but also in terms of presence in Bolzano. And I would love to hear more about how these collaborations started and how they manifested, and what the motivation was on both ends to enter this collaboration. More the Bolzano as a gateway collaborations rather than the I guess some of them were just co-commissions and so on with Museo you mentioned and so on. But really, like the more structural collaborations, I would be very interested in understanding how they take place and how they, what they meant, what they gave to the biennial.
Of course. Doris, do you want me to reply? Yes? Okay. Well, we thought immediately while talking to Doris at the very beginning of our collaboration that it would have been for us very important to open up the participation to the Biennale to a group of cultural institutions of the territory that are working with different perspectives, but directly collaborating with artists and in the production of artworks and art projects. Of course, the idea behind was to not just to bring them on board, but to find the right collaboration with every single partner, trying also to find those projects and those researches they were making, which could have been included or brought into a dialogue with the idea of the Parliament of Marmots. Like, for example, in the case of Argekunst, it was very easy because when I met Zasha Kola and Francesca Verga and Doris, of course, she was happy with the idea. We discovered that they were already working on the development of a project with Eva Giolo, the Belgian artist Eva Giolo. She was making a research in the valley dedicated to the Latin language and to the Latin historical myths. So in this case, it was really natural to decide to support the production of this project and to present it in the form we decided to make it. So as a sort of introduction to the Biennale's main topics and to the cultural context in general. Are you still hearing me? I don't see you anymore on video. Are you online? Yes, okay, sorry. Everybody disappeared in a moment, so I thought I was alone in the flow. No, you're still there. Good. So it was also very nice to start a collaboration and very easy to start a collaboration with the Muse in Trento, the Science Museum in Trento, because Alice Labor, curator at Muse, she was developing a film program called Anthropocene. So we found it would have been also interesting for us and them at the same time to try to include our Mediterranean frame into their own research, the one they were already doing, and so they accepted our invitation. They were happy to redirect into not a different, but a rearranged direction their own research, what they were already doing by themselves, and to bring this research into the valley. So the idea with them was to introduce this selection of videos, video works, collaborating with the scientists which are part of the museum staff. So every single film will be introduced from different scientific perspectives. So introduced by a geologist, by a specialist of insects and different species of animals and so on. And so, but in general, the idea was also not to be perceived as a different even, but also as part of a territorial community, because Biennale Gherdëina in general is, as Doris was saying, it's a lot about how can a project, a biennial project in this case, but in general a cultural project, can activate a territory. So I think this was the vision behind the collaboration with the cultural institutions.
The point that maybe I would like to know, just because it helps me also ask them the next questions, is were these collaborations set up specifically for this edition, or was it is it a continuous collaboration?
So this collaboration was, we had in the past a collaboration with Museum, with a common exhibition that introduced the Biennale number 8. And so with Museum, it was our second collaboration, but the other are all new collaboration, and we are also very happy about that and also proud, and we will for sure try to continue this also in the next editions.
Sorry, just to help me understand where we are. I want to jump maybe a little more into this year's project, but I think with a question that goes a little bit towards what you were discussing also at the end of your answer now, and that I hope generates more than just an answer to the specific thing on the project, which is when you referenced Lynn Maisid's in the text that you read of hers, with the reference to animal language and to the speed of animal language. Of course, you bring up, I think, a question of speeds that goes beyond that specific topic. And as a direct consequence, in my thoughts at least, of course, there is also a thought of sustainability of human presence in general, but also of a project like a Biennial. And this is true, I think, for all biennials. It's a topic that we've been treating and we've been talking about extensively within IBA. We've been talking about the size of the biennials and a kind of degrowth movement that is happening within bigger biennials. And I think this is all something that also Doris mentioned when she was talking about how the biennial grew in a slow way and kind of adapting itself to the possibilities that the environment offers today. Environment, not just meaning the natural environment, but the cultural and the human environment and so on. So maybe a question to you, Lorenzo, specifically regarding this edition is, can you give us a sense at which speed you developed this project, especially with the artists, within the spaces, and what kind of dialogue was happening, and all of these elements that I think are essential to understand how to create a project that is ultimately.
Of course. And this is a very good question. This is a good question for all the Biennale's formats and our own activity as curators, as institutions, but also as artists, because it's also the topic. I mean, the problem of productions is not only an institutional problem; it's also a problem for artists themselves. And as Doris was saying at the beginning, this is a Biennale that has certainly grown over the years, but it remains a Biennale that is not large. It's not enlarging its presence in the valley. Like, for example, one thing that I consider very intelligent is the idea because at the beginning there were mainly sculptures produced and exhibited in the landscape, and now the Biennale is reducing the presence of sculptures in natural spaces and natural area, and it's more using old spaces, abandoned spaces, like the Hotel Gherdëina in the center of Ortisei, or other private spaces that people give to the Biennale in order to be used as exhibition spaces. And so this Biennale here is less impacting in the landscapes than some of the old ones. And this has been decided by Doris and the group of Zenda Seiza as a different way for making art and making sculptures, but not only sculptures. It is open to every language now, the Biennale, in a different forms. But it doesn't mean that Biennale Gherdëina, like other biennales in the world, can be seen as a model of sustainability. Sustainability is a huge topic when you talk about productions and when you invite people to move from a place to another, to see something, to experience something. It takes energies and it takes time. So I remember very well the first dialogue I had with Doris, and we cannot, we said, the two of us, we cannot make a biennale of the sustainability. As I was saying also in my speech at the beginning, but it would be, I think, it would be more interesting to talk about the short circuit generated by attention, a vision, or a sensibility, and the problematic presence of productions in every place, and in the Val Gardena specifically. It's from here the idea of what is wilderness and where can we find it in today's world, etc. So talking about the velocity, of course, there was a moment we had to accelerate a lot the production processes, but the approach we had at the beginning was very slow. So we invited artists to come, to spend time in the valleys, to spend time with locals, having dialogues with different sort of people, so local craftsmen, local communities, local scientists and researchers, experts of Latin language, and also local artists, of course, because it's not only but mainly a community of artists and human beings and non-human animals. So I don't know if I answered to your question, but this was the temperature of the project, and that we tried to develop.
I think it answers, and it answered it honestly, because of course, as you mentioned, the moment that you move bodies and materials around the world to produce works, to create performances, to whatever, to whichever impact you want to have, of course, by definition, you're going against the principle of doing something extremely sustainably and so on. On the other hand, I do believe that those inputs and those energies are also generative, no? And I think that's the ultimate goal of doing a project like this. They are generative of dialogue, they're generative of creating new ideas, they're generative of questioning also, no? Some of the history, some of the narratives. I think the work by Julius von Bismarck that you showed is a brilliant example of what art can do. You know, I mean, I think this Borkenkäfer, it's called in German. I don't know how it's called in Italian. It's like terrorizing almost the narrative around woods and so on. I mean, I know that from Germany, but I'm sure across Europe it's similar. And to find the wittiness, the ability of turning that around and say, well, it's a prophet as well. No? It's a prophet of change, and with human history as well is defined by these prophets of change in a way as well. So why not just accept it like that, no? Or at least see it like that? Why not turn around? I think that's a brilliant example of what what elements of at least questioning, you know, critical thinking about our culture in general, a biennial can do.
So, I mean, a production, talking about productions, I think it becomes sustainable if it really serves a purpose, you know, if it has a deep meaning, sort of importance, you know, otherwise it's disposable. And I mean, if you want to make a sculptures on wood, like in the case of Julius von Bismarck, you need the wood, and you need energy, because you need material, you need, I mean, craftsmen, and you have to then transport it, and the sustainable part of this process is the purpose, the real purpose the sculpture is looking for. So
talking of this sculpture, because you mentioned that previous editions had a more stronger focus on sculpture within the environment and so on. Maybe this is a question more for Doris than for yourself, but feel free to answer, both of you. In previous editions, have you ever thought about, or have you ever actually done so, of producing permanent works as well?
So we started with the idea that if we produce permanent sculptures, then is no place for temporary sculptures. So this is a little bit the big problem for the one of the problems. The second is you need also the funding for, of course, permanent. So, but this is also the primary. I think really, if we keep the sculptures, then it's no place. We are in a small valley, so it's difficult to start a new edition if you have full of other.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, that's what happens in most biennials, but I was curious just because you also mentioned that the natural environment was used a lot more in the past and so on. So I thought maybe there was a link there somehow. I'm gonna give a quick shout out to our guests one last time, just to give them a chance, because we're already running a bit long on time. I don't know how busy you are, but we try to keep videos not too long for obvious purposes. If there is any questions from the public, feel free to ask it now. Yep, Yorgos.
Hello, and thank you both for your highly valuable presentation. We learned many important things. I'm from Crete and Greece, so it's important for me to see different examples. I would like to ask Mr. Lorenzo Giusti. I think that he mentioned about this, but I want to be more specific, if it's possible, about the steps or activities he follows to activate the territory. Additionally, it's important to focus on specific, for example, he focused on specific target groups, such as students, artisans, craftspeople, or is more effective to adopt a broader policy that engages the community as a whole, as a sum?
Well, we started discussing, I remember, it was a meeting with the association Zenda Seida, if it was what was better for us if to use one single language in the title of the Biennale Gherdëina, the Parliament of Marmots, or 3 or 4 different languages. So this was the first the impact with my very first impact with locals, and it was very important because I realized how much important it was the topic of the languages in the region, because it refers to many different sort of trajectories and problems, political problems, social problems, questions, and so on. So I also see this as a part of, as a way for involving the local community into the process of production of a cultural project like a Biennale. Then, of course, we started working and collaborating with the artists. So it was through the artists' visions that we started meeting different communities in the region. So we didn't have a precise group in mind at the moment we started making the research. It was more given by the artists' ideas and visions. But of course, there was the desire for us, for example, to collaborate with some local researchers, for example. I don't know, for example, one of these important intellectual that we have involved several times is Ulrike Kindl. She's a professor at the Ca' Foscari in Venice. She used to be a professor at Ca' Foscari. She has studied local myths. And through her studies, she really started, she also encountered different other researchers and persons that we involved into the first part of our research, and then some artists related to these researchers again. And then, for example, we invited again Ulrike Kindl to present the catalog a few weeks ago at the moment it was printed, because her researches inspired very much our perspective and so on. But of course, the local craftsmen are part of the Biennale Gherdëina, as well of many other artists. There are local companies working in the sculpture business, that we have involved. So many. The Ledin Institute, of course, who made all the translations and also was also part of many projects in different ways. So it was more like a day-by-day dialogue, that the one that we have developed over the months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joris.
Yeah, I think, thank you for the question, first of all, and thank you for sticking around until the end. It's been a great pleasure to have you here. I think we can slowly come to a close. But I want to, as I said, I want to thank you, but I also want to remind everyone that is watching this video before the end of the Biennale, which is, I should have written it down. I usually do. It's remind me please of when the Biennial
August 31.
Okay. So if anyone is traveling to northern Italy and to Val Gherdëina in particular, and before August 31, we definitely encourage you to stop by and enjoy and experience the Biennial firsthand. I also want to remind everyone here, but everyone that watches this, about our upcoming 11th General Assembly in Lyon, which will take place between October 11th and 14th, in which some of the topics will definitely echo some of the discussions we had today, especially about sustainability, about degrowth, about understanding the biennial as a model that needs to react as well to the changes that are happening, both cultural and environmental, of course. I definitely look forward to hearing more about your project, Lorenzo, but definitely also about hopefully meeting the team of Biennale Gherdëina soon, either in place or in any of our future events. And with this, I would like to close today's event and thank everybody that participated. Thank you for joining, and looking forward to the next projects. And
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.